A very good afternoon to you all, friends. I'm Sanjeev Singhal, Central Council member and Chairman, Auditing and Assurance Standard Board and the Sustainability Reporting Standard Board of the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India. I, along with my Vice Chairman in absentia, CA Vishal Doshi ji, Central Council member, welcome you to this 50th program of the Auditing and Assurance Standard Board for this council year. This is the 50th program, and the topic is very apt. Topic is ethics in audit. And on this occasion, we have the Honorable Vice President of the Institute present among us, the Honorable Past President Amarjit Chopra ji, who bets very heavily for ethics, is there as a speaker. Sunil Bajaj is there as a speaker, and the Honorable President, CA Dr. Devashish Mitra, is also likely to join soon. Friends, 50th program is otherwise not a big deal. But when we talk about auditing, 50th program in auditing, in one council year, in 4 months, in rather less than 4 months, probably that is a milestone which we've been able to achieve with the support, active participation of all the members. It's been a combination of the physical as well as the virtual programs. And we have taken a very wide variety of topics, right from the bank branch audits to audit planning execution, to quality control, to the interplay of CARO in Schedule 3, and topics like fraud, auditor responsibility relating to fraud in the audit of financial statement, using the work of another auditor, audit evidence, evaluation of misstatement, etc., etc. We have covered all the auditing standards so far. We covered CARO under 3 sessions. And discuss various clauses threadbare. And today, being a 50th program and as an Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, we attach highest value to ethics. In fact, our Honorable President always says integrity, independence, excellence. So obviously, ethics have a very, very special role to play. And we thought that we should keep this topic. And from the next webinar, we'll be taking up audit of the various items of financial statement, where we'll be covering CARO, Schedule 3, the auditing procedure aspect, and the accounting of these various topics of all the elements of the balance sheet, as well as the profit and loss account and cash flow statement and notes to the accounts. So I'm indeed very, very thankful, and I join my Vice Chairman in thanking all of you for supporting the cause of the profession and learning auditing standards with such keen interest. Friends, as I said, I have the honor that my Honorable Vice President is with us. The Honorable Past President Amarjit Chopra ji is with us, and the Honorable President is also shortly will join us. His flight has just landed, and he'll be with us very shortly. Although the Vice President and President do not need an introduction, but let me very, very briefly tell that we joined the council in the same year, the Honorable Vice President and myself, and I've seen the passion with which he works and the interest which he takes in every subject of professional interest. You talk to him about auditing, he'll read 40 pages in half an hour and give you his analysis with even the grammatical changes. His command over sustainability, or whether it is the new proposed curriculum, or the passion with which he works on the World Congress of Accountant. And of course, he's a technology man. And he is an illustrious son of an illustrious father, our Honorable Past President, Shri Sunil Talati ji. And of course, there are many feather in his cap. So he's with us. I call him my younger brother in the council, and I'm thankful to you, Aniket Bhai, for joining. And I would request you to give your keynote address, and then this will be followed by the Honorable President, who has just joined us. I can see his ever smiling face of our Honorable President. Thank you, sir, straight from the flight to the office for taking up this 50th program keynote on ethics in audit. I've just briefly talked about the Honorable Vice President. And let me tell you, the Honorable President, the passion with which he is working, he's steering the council and guiding the council members, giving full flexibility full operating flexibility to all the council colleagues, to all the chairmen and vice chairmen. And due to his continuous support, we've been able to make our mark in of course in sustainability. Personally, I would say is very, very supportive of that, and of course take up new initiative even in auditing, for example, working on the KPIs in the IPO documents. So thank you so much, President sir. And since now you have also joined, so between the vice president and you may decide who would like to speak first. And our two speakers for the day is one is none other than CM Arjit Chopra ji, our honorable past president, who always bats for ethics, just like you, sir, when you talk about independence, excellence, and integrity. And another speaker is Sunil Bajaj, who's a special invitee of our ethical standard board. So, President sir, please suggest to me.
Okay, all right.
Sure.
I can see the vice president getting ready. So, you see, the Honorable Vice President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Aniket Talati, Amarjit Chopra ji, past president, my council colleague Sanjeev Singhal, Sunil Bajaj ji, and to everybody else who are listening to me, I congratulate you see on this 50th meeting that we are having, and also congratulate on the topic that has been chosen for this meeting, because see, so frequently we have been told that audit is good, but where is the ethical quotient? Let me tell you, in recent times, you see, yesterday I was in Haridwar for the 8th International Yoga Day, having a program with the Swamiji, having a program there. So, see, there when I was reaching Haridwar, on the way, you see, we dropped in at Dehradun branch. And Dehradun branch, there was a big attendance there. But most importantly, outside the branch, at the entrance of the building of Dehradun branch, which was constructed, I believe, somewhere in the early 2000s, where the words integrity, independence, and excellence written. And they were engraved words, engraved in cement. So, see, this is the kind of, whoever did it, this is the kind of commitment that they had towards integrity, towards excellence, towards independence. Right? So, it is, so if somebody says that, you see, we have been auditors, we have been given a task under law, under legislations, but somehow or the other, the ethical quotient is missing. I would tend to say that, with these kind of experiences that I have, I would not lose hope that, the auditors will follow ethics. Let me also tell you, the ethical standards that we have today is akin to the very best that is there in the world. We follow the ISBA ethical standards, and all auditors are expected to follow the ethical standards while they carry out auditing. But then, today, unlike in the past, when they used to carry out audit without restrictions, today the regulations, the regulatory restrictions are so much that they are also pushed forcibly towards maintaining ethics. For example, I will just take section 144 of the Companies Act, which talks about banned areas for auditors. This is basically done by the government to ensure that there is no conflict of interest. Right? So, you see, we are now regulated very toughly. And let me also tell you that the disciplinary committee of the institute is also very, very, tough on ethical compliance. Amarjit Chopra ji has been a member of the disciplinary committee in the past. He is also aware that, we have been very, very tough on this. So, because we believe that if the profession has to survive in the long run, and not only survive, but survive with respect, that is the most important, survive with respect, then ethics in audit is extremely, extremely important. So I am very happy that, you have organized this program connecting audit with ethics. And I believe that the expectation of a connection between ethics and audit would have been there right from the time that audit came into existence, the auditing function came into existence. It is just that how much over a period of time we have implemented that connection. But if you ask me, you see, it is very, very important that we have ethics when we carry out audit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable President, sir. More than 2,000 members are already live on the webinars, and your message will go down well with all of them. Thank you so much for the continuous encouragement that you provide. With this, now I would request the Honorable Vice President of ICI, Aniket Talatiji, to kindly address.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sanjeev Bhai. And I know after the President has spoken, it's generally he has the last word, but due to some logistics issues, I got delayed. And I think I have the privilege to speak in front of two illustrious presidents, say Dr. Devashish Mitra ji, under whom I'm pursuing my articleship as Vice President of the Institute. And of course, Amarjit Chopra sir, under whom, when he became the President of Institute, I started my journey at the branch. So I have a very close link with Chopra sir. In fact, even before I became a chartered accountant, I know sir. So I think it's a sheer privilege just to share the screen with these two illustrious people. Of course, my dear friend Sunil Bajaj, with whom we've had numerous discussions in the Ethical Standards Board all 3 years, because I was a member there and he was always an invitee in the ESB, and had some wonderful deliberations and discussions with him. And of course, Sanjeev Bhai, the most stable chairperson we could have for the AASB, somebody who's actually actively very involved in audit, who understands the pain of auditors, who's sitting on this side, as well as the expectation of industry and stakeholders on the other side. And I think we have a very fine chairperson of AASB who's going to lead the charge for this year and ensure that the audit profession is seen in the right light. Sir, when I talk about ethics in audit, and I have two presidents, and again, I cannot be charged with plagiarism, but since Dada has already spoken, I will quote our past president, Bansi Mehta Bhai, because Bansi Bhai is somebody who I think everybody in the profession, especially in the Western region, and I think largely across the India, know and respect as a very illustrious past president. And what he used to say, and what he always mentions, is that ethics is absolute, never relative. And that is to say that, in other words, relativity is in physics and never in ethics. You cannot be relative in terms of application of ethical conduct, of having ethics and implementing ethics. And I think audit is the cornerstone of our profession. It is how we get all the recognition in the country, in the world. We may be the best advisors, the best tax solution providers. We may be doing the best work in GST, in technology, in various other fields. But I think the one area for which the country, all the stakeholders look up to our profession is the attestation and the audit function that our members perform. It may be the audits of traditional companies, or it may be now the newer audit are actually unearthing fraud. And I think the president referred to it. I'm sure Chopraji will also, in his address, deal with this. I'm sitting on a DC bench, a couple of them this year, and 90% of the punishments that are meted out to our chartered accountants are in fact because of non-compliance of standards on auditing or the entire auditing framework in which they are supposed to attest and certify. We have a new TDS provision, and we have 4,000, 5,000 people in one hall, in one program, who line up to listen. And today, if I ask the 2,000 people, Sanjeev Bhai, who have joined, what is the future of SQC going to be with the SQMs? I think very few of us will actually even be aware or bothered about where the future of these standards are going. So I think it is very important that we understand, one, the reporting frameworks and the standards, and two, the ethical requirements which you are going to debate and deliberate today. My only request to all the members who have joined in today, look at any disciplinary action order that has been passed by ICI or by any other regulators. And some of them are today, for example, circulating on the social media. What you will find is the member will always be held guilty for either SQC 1, SA 200, 230, or the 300, which deals with the audit part, or the 700, 705, which deal with the reporting part. And how much time do we spend understanding the obligations that are there in these standards? I think that is a question of introspection. But having said that, let me also say, I have never seen such an active AASP in all these years. You are doing this outreach program, Sanjeev Bhai, to ensure how the awareness of these standards can be taken to our practitioners at large. And so glad that you are doing programs in the smaller cities, smaller towns, where this awareness is even more required. And I'm confident that with you and the vice chairman, you'll be able to ensure that this expectation and the change scenario in which we live, the understanding of audit standards, review standards, engagement standards as a whole is increased. And of course, the very important topic of ethics in doing audit function. It may be the statutory audit, it may be forensic audit, or any other assurance function is upheld by our members. Once again, I compliment AASB for this wonderful session, and thank you for inviting me to share this wonderful virtual dais with our Honorable President, Sri Dr. Debashish Mitra ji, and our past President, again, CA Dr. Amarjit Chopra ji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Honorable Vice President and the President. And with this, now I invite CA Dr. Amarjit Chopra ji, our Honorable past President. It's a coincidence in one frame. There are three doctors, myself, Dr. Amarjit Chopra ji, and Dr. Debashish Mitra ji. So, sir, Amarjit Chopra, sir, you have always guided us and me particularly. And you are the champion of ethics. I mean, whether it comes to the formation of these standards or the implementation of the standard or the discussions which happen on this topic. Thank you so much for accepting our request. And sir, the screen is all yours. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sanjeev ji, and thanks to the Honorable President, Dr. Debashish Mitra, and of course, the Vice President, Mr. Aniket Talati. Also the other fellow speaker, Mr. Sunil Bajaj, and all the distinguished participants in this particular webinar. Let me begin on an apologetic note, because I think rarely in my life I have ever violated the dress norm. But today, as I was traveling outside, and I forgot in the morning that I have to deliver a lecture and I should be having a formal dress also. So anyway, I think talking to you people is more important than the dress, if you really ask me. But yes, probably I personally feel that I should have been in a proper dress decorum. And that is one reason that I had to ring up to someone, the chairman, whether I'm permitted to join the program without a formal dress. And I'm thankful to him that he permitted to do so. The other thing that I would like to say is Dr. Singhal said that there are three doctors, but I think you are the real doctor today, if you ask me, because to me, I don't know who is the person who did the doctorate the earliest out of you two, Dr. Debashish and yourself. So far as I am concerned, I am very clear that I have done it only on 7th of March. So I'm I'm at infancy stage so far as the doctorate is concerned, if you ask me. So far as the topic for the day is concerned, I think this is something which has been very, very close to my heart, very frankly. All these years, I've been talking about it. Fortunately, unfortunately, people have been thinking that ethics is only to be talked about, not to be practiced. I think it is a sad part. It is a sad reflection, if you really ask me. Number one, when one talks of ethics in audit, what kind of ethics in audit can be followed? That's one part of it. But what is ethics? I think that's more important. Ethical behavior is something, or ethics is something that we conduct ourselves in a manner that we expect someone else to conduct himself or herself with us. I think that's the most important thing. And most of us actually tend to confuse values with the ethics. That's another problem. Values may themselves include ethics, but ethics at times may not include values. Let's be very clear so far as that part is concerned. When I talk of values, the values can be social, the value can be you can say the cultural values also. When I talk of social values, probably one of the social value that we all enjoy is that when I meet one of the seniors or I meet my father or my mother or my brother, I will touch their feet. And when you come to even social or cultural values, probably each of the religions celebrate those in their own manner, basically. I think value is something which is imbibed by the family, by the society in the person's concerned. Value is not something which can be actually codified. It's very difficult to codify a value. But ethics can be codified. Ethics at times put constraint to your conduct in a business or in a profession or in any other manner, even in the service rules for that particular manner, that you are supposed to conduct yourself in a particular manner. Now, if you really ask me, as a human being, I'm not supposed to kill anybody. One of the values that I enjoy is that I should not hurt anybody, I should not kill anybody. But when I'm a soldier sitting in on the front, and my enemy attacks me, can that value be practiced? I think at that time the ethics tell me that if the enemy attacks me, I have to attack the enemy at the same time. So what is more important is that at times the ethics can be normative, it can be applied ethics for that matter. Normative ethics could be closer to the values. But when you apply those ethics, at times you could be contrary to some of the values in your life. Because there are certain things which now, as a human being, even as a member of the council or as a president or as a past president, I would not like to actually hurt anybody, not like to hurt any of the members. But if the member doesn't act in a manner that a professional is supposed to act, and I sit on the disciplinary committee, while sitting on the disciplinary committee, I am acting as a judge, I am acting as a referee. And there, my values or my ethics are that I am supposed to punish the person if he has not acted in a manner which was supposed to him, which was supposed of him as a professional. I think this distinction is very fine, and this distinction needs to be understood between values and the ethics for that matter. And that time I have been saying that most of the times values may not be codified, but ethics can be codified. But ethics, even codification of ethics itself is a problem, if you really ask me. Because ethics is a kind of behavior that I expect of the other in a manner that I'm supposed to act in the similar manner as I expect the other to behave with me. So I'll just give one example. You see, our code of ethics is there. There's no doubt about it. Now, when our code of ethics is there, people will feel that it is putting some kind of constraints on us. As I said, that ethics, when we apply ethics can be actually giving us some kind of constraints. And in all an audit field, basically today, there are ethics which put constraints. Now, auditing standards, if you ask me, are putting certain kind of constraints on me that I'm supposed to do this. And if I go to the company law, if I go to the section 143, 9 and 10, what do they talk of? That the auditing standards are mandatorily to be followed by the chartered accountants, by the auditors. What does it mean? It means that whatever has been written in the auditing standards, it has to be complied with by the various chartered accountants. Now, one of the cases which is being circulated today, very frankly, in the social media, it very clearly talks of the documentation. That the documentation was required, the ethical policy of the firm was required, SQC policy of the firm was required, but probably the other person is not able to furnish anything so far as that particular part is concerned, and he goes to the NFRA and admits that I don't have any of these in a manner that I should be having it, or I have not applied the auditing standards that I should have applied. So what I am trying to say is that so far as ethics are concerned, this will put certain constraints that you have to act in a particular manner. You are not a free citizen that you can do anything. And particularly when it is applied to audit, I think there are a number of areas where you are supposed to comply with certain things. And if you don't comply with it, you will not be considered to be ethical. And I think that is why the Schedule 1 and the Schedule 2 and with different parts are there so far as the code of ethics is concerned. Our ethics have been very well codified. I will give you various examples, but let me come to the basics of the ethics when we talk of the audit. And I will like to give examples with regard to each of the points so far as this particular part is concerned. One of the things which has been said is that the one part of the code of ethics is that an auditor should be a man of integrity. Of course, it applies to every professional. Let me put it that way, whether a person in service or as an auditor. But as an auditor, I'm supposed to be a man of integrity. What does it mean? I'm supposed to be honest. Nobody should be able to take me for a ride by thinking that probably money allurement can actually cause some kind of conflict of interest to me, and I may not act in a manner that I am supposed to act. I am a man of integrity, and that is what the auditor is required to do. And that is where probably one of the biggest challenges in any profession lies, in any, I will say any businesses lie, in any profession lies, in any conduct of the life is, in any way of the life is concerned. I think the most difficult part is what is integrity? And integrity cannot be relative under any circumstances. This is what probably the Honorable Vice President said. Or either a man is of full integrity or he is of no integrity. If one can say, no, if somebody does this, then he's a man of integrity, but this much he can do. I don't think that he can do this much. If he does this much, then also he may not be considered to be a man of integrity. Let's be very clear about it. Honesty has to be absolute. Honesty cannot be 50% honest or 60% honest or 70% honest. I don't think the honesty can be in that way. As an auditor, whatever I am supposed to do, I should be doing that. I think that's very important. Most of the times what is happening is, and I think that is where the entire question, and I must compliment Sanjeevji for this particular reason, that today we are talking of ethics and audit. I think this is one of the most important aspects. When we talk of audit and ethics, now one of the questions which is arising, which was touched upon by the Honorable President, non-audit services. And he referred to Section 144 of the Companies Act. Now, one of the points which has been raised internationally now, and I think UK has been the first one to take the lead to ask the Big Four to segregate their practices into audit and non-audit services. If you ask me why it has been done, let's take a look at it. Because all the principles which are talked in ethics, whether of integrity or independence or objectivity or professional behavior, I think this one part will take care of everything. I will give you the examples for that matter. When I talk of independence, I don't talk of independence only that I've not taken a loan from somebody, or my wife is not working with somebody, or my child is not working with somebody. I think one of the parts of the independence is that the other person, what is independence? Independence is that somebody cannot influence me in my decision making so far as forming an opinion is concerned. I think that's very important. Now, if it is going to happen that my audit fee is, say, 10 lakh rupees, and the other person is able to give me non-audit service work of, say, 50 lakh rupees, do you think I can remain independent? I think it's a big question mark, if you really ask me. I similarly say this matter with regard to the independent directors also. The independent directors getting commission on the profits. I think this is absolutely impairing the independence of the independent director. You may get the sitting fee for whatever you are doing, but you get independent. As independent director, you continue to get commission worth crores. There are companies, I know, For some of the professionals or some of the retired bureaucrats, some of the retired bankers may not have earned that kind of an amount in their lifetime which they are able to earn in 1 year from a particular company. Do you think that they can be independent? Similarly, an auditor, if his non-audit fee from the client is going to be far, far more than the audit fee, I think somewhere or the other, he tends to believe that probably if I lose this client, or I don't lose only the audit fee, I lose the non-audit fee also. That fear of losing the client, and not only losing the client, if he is to lose the client only for the audit fee, probably he may say, okay, let's see what will happen. But when he's getting non-audit fee far more disproportionate to the audit fee, then he starts feeling the pinch that if I lose this client, I lose the non-audit fee also, which is so much. So that definitely impairs his independence in forming the opinion. There is no doubt about it. And that is why the talk is there. That is why the section 144 was brought in. Now, section 144, the way it has been implemented, the way it has been looked at by one of the regulators, I don't agree with that. Because if 144 has been there, and if the institute guidance note has allowed some kind of these non-audit services to be rendered by a chartered accountant so far, I'm talking of so far, I think that regulator needs to be very clear after whom the chartered accountants were subservient to, whom they were reporting to, under whose jurisdiction they were. They were under the jurisdiction of ICI. And if ICI had allowed certain things, you can say prospectively this will not be done. But retrospectively, you start acting against the member, I don't think that's actually desired. In case the non-audit services are to be disproportionate to the audit fee, and these are going to be much higher than the audit fee. And in certain cases, if the audit fee is 10 crore and the non-audit service is also 10 crore, this is bound to impair the independence of the auditor. I'm very clear. I think it influences his mind somewhere when he is going to form that particular opinion. There is no doubt in my mind so far as that part is concerned. And you talk of one part is that the independence is impaired. The other part of it is that your objectivity is lost. What is objectivity as an auditor? Objectivity is that irrespective of anything, I will not have any prejudice, I will not have any bias. Whatever opinion I'm going to form, I will form that particular opinion. Even if a person has told me something at any point of time, nasty or otherwise, I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to have my own way so far as the conduct of the audit is concerned. And I'm going to form my opinion based upon the facts, based upon the audit evidence, based upon my findings, and based upon whatever I have found through the auditing standards that I've complied with, that I've actually practiced. Now, if I lose my objectivity, I can lose my objectivity even because of the non-audit fee services, non-audit services fee also. Some kind of, the moment my independence is impaired, my objectivity could also be lost as a consequence thereof. There's no doubt in my mind. So another hallmark in the ethics, so far as the auditor is concerned, is that you have to be objective. You have to be fair. Your opinion is unbiased. Your opinion is without any prejudice. And how it can be without prejudice? When you are going merely by the facts of the case, you are not influenced by any other consideration. But if you are influenced by the consideration, number one, it can be money, monetary, in terms of monetary, and monetary I have already referred to, or it could be in terms of, you can say, some other kind of a threat. If you are going to lose your objectivity there, or there could be circumstances that wherein at one particular point of time, the GM finance or the CF of the company had a tip with the auditor and you carry it in your mind and you say, no, I have to teach him a lesson. I don't think that's being objective. Objective is when based upon the facts, you are going to report something. And that is only guided by the facts of the case and not by any other consideration. I think that's objectivity. I think one of the hallmarks of the ethics in audit is that you have to be objective in formation of your opinion and you don't have to be biased. And the third thing is that you have to be competent. I think one of the considerations of the code of ethics is that you have to be competent. You have to update yourself under all circumstances. If the auditing standards come, the accounting standards come, and I don't read the auditing standards, I don't comply with the auditing standards, I don't update myself with the auditing standards, I don't even read the accounting standards. What has happened in the case which is under circulation today? Can you beat it? It's a listed entity which is actually to which Ind AS is applicable. And if the auditor says that he belongs to a smaller town and he is unaware of the expected credit loss model, is it expected of a professional? Is it ethical behavior? If you are not actually aware of certain developments, if you are not aware of Ind AS, if you are not aware of certain the going concern concept under certain circumstances, I think better don't accept the assignment. If you have accepted an assignment, it is presumed that you are competent to handle that particular assignment. I think that's very important. But believe me, having sat in the disciplinary committee, one had the feel, and one has been having that feel. We accept certain appointments, knowing fully well that we may not be able to do it the way it is supposed to be done. But then we say, chalta hai, chalega, चलता कुछ नहीं है और आज के टाइम में कुछ नहीं चलेगा. Let me be very clear about it. Whatever is to be done, it has to be through the competence. It has to be through your knowledge. It has to be through your expertise. And I think what is more important is that you can't sit on what you read in your examination. In 75, when I qualified, there were no accounting standards or there were no auditing standards, and that is one reason that I qualified, if you really ask me. But today, if someone has to talk to me about accounting standards or Ind AS or auditing standards, can I say that I have not read it in my examinations or I'm not supposed to update myself? I think when it comes to, there is a listed entity of which accounts have been published, and the Schedule 3, which has been applied there in a listed entity, mind it. It is the old Schedule 3, and the CARO is in the old format, and it's not the CARO 2020. What kind of competence, what kind of updation the auditor has? It is very important that we keep ourselves updated. And for that, what is required is that in our offices, we may develop a particular system wherein people stand updated. Unfortunately, probably training has always taken a back seat so far as the professional firms are concerned. Barring a few of the firms, I will not like to comment upon it. But I personally feel that we need to improve our competence levels. And in the times to come, and I will give you another example, and where we are all it will be considered to be an unethical conduct. 2 years back, when the COVID happened, the bank branch audits were to be conducted on a remote basis because it was not possible to visit the branches. Each one of us accepted the assignments. We didn't refuse the assignment. Irrespective of the fact whether I was competent, I'm using the word competent in inverted commas, whether I was competent to conduct the branch audit on a remote basis or not. When I talk of remote basis, I think the use of the IT is very important. How I actually receive the papers and how I dispose of those papers, how do I actually collect the audit evidence, how do I scrutinize all those papers sitting over? I am auditing a branch of Madras sitting over in Delhi. And some of our members gave huge disclaimers with regard thereto. No, that was not ethical, because as a professional person, I was supposed to be competent to do it rather than using certain other kind of disclaimers. It was not expected of the membership at large. And the moment you do it, the other regulator starts thinking that we are not prepared for this kind of an assignment. And it has its own implications. So I think one of the ethics which is to be practiced in any field, and I think for the purposes of the audit, is a must under also. Now under COVID, if you ask me, if I don't test the going concern, particularly post-COVID, if I don't test the going concern concept, I simply rely upon whatever the management says that it is a going concern, and I believe that it is a going concern. I think somewhere or the other, my professional competence is under challenge, and that will not be ethical under any circumstances. If after COVID, particularly, take the case of the various hotels, take the case of the tour operators, take the case of the restaurants for that matter. What kind of damage it has done to the businesses? And if I'm not able to test that, if I'm not able to test the impairment in some of the cases, particularly, if a particular new technology is developed, and I know that the new technology has developed, let's say that the electrical vehicles are coming into existence, and I'm auditing an auto company. And if I don't look at it, what is going to be the impact of this electric vehicles on this auto company? Today, of course, in India, luckily, that's not the case. But suppose tomorrow it happens that people are willing to buy only the electric cars, and my company has not gone into research. Look at one particular point of time, we used to have the companies like ECFA, Kodak, etc., particularly for the purposes of the photography. Where are those companies today? Because they did not innovate, they didn't do the enough of research, and they have vanished. Now, if those companies were vanishing, what was the role of the auditor in applying the concern, in applying the concept of the going concern, or in applying the concept of the impairment of the assets? I think that's very relevant. And to my mind, this competence part and updation part is really important. We may or may not be attaching. I think whatever Sanjeevji is doing, or whatever the institute is doing and through the various committees, only to update the members. It's only to update the members with the latest developments. Now, if I don't know FEMA, why should I take up a case of FEMA? And if I don't know FEMA and my client actually is subject to those provisions, either I go for an outside consultant or I start reading myself. That's bound to happen. I think ethics require it to happen. Because if someone is going to audit me tomorrow, I expect him to have an expert knowledge in those subjects or not. Similarly, if I'm going to audit somebody, the other person expects me to be having that knowledge. I just can't beat about the bush. I think that's very important when I talk of the ethics. And then the professional behavior. I think when we talk of the ethics, one of the most important things is what is my professional behavior. When I talk of professional behavior, the behavior which is expected of a professional. Now, I have conducted, say, a particular assignment of an audit. So far as the working papers are concerned, this is my right. But so far as the books of account are concerned, or so far as certain other papers are concerned, the party can definitely take those back. I can't refuse the party that I will not give you back your books of account till the time you pay my fee. There's no way that it is going to happen. But believe me, we have disciplinary cases before us. We have held the people guilty as a consequence of this, where the person has written mails, threatening mails to the other party. That if you don't do this, I will do this. There was a particular case in which he writes that if you don't pay my remuneration, I will write to the banks giving certain facts. Is that the professional behavior which is expected? I think this is totally unethical, if you ask me. This is totally unethical, which I believe. So what I am trying to say is that there are certain ways in which it is expected that I will be acting absolutely in a professional manner. My behavior should behold a professional. My behavior should behold a professional. I just can't act like a street man. I can't threaten somebody. There's no way. I can request. Now people will say that if he is not paying my fee, why I should not take a tough stand? You may take a tough stand, but tough stand doesn't mean that you can threaten somebody that I will start writing to the banks, or I will start writing to the income tax people, I will start writing to so and so. I don't think that you can do that under any circumstances, or I will retain your books of accounts. I think that's not expected of a professional. And similarly, if you have taken one of the parts of the code of conduct is, if you ask me today, which is codified, that if you have taken certain money from your client, if the client gives you some money, say for the purpose of advanced tax payment or for purpose of GST payment, you cannot merge that money in your own account. What is the danger? You know, the danger is that if, suppose he pays you 10 lakh rupees, and if on any given date, and you park that money in the bank account which you have been using for your all other purposes, and suppose on any date, if that amount goes below 10 lakh rupees, it means you have utilized the client's money for purposes other than for which it was given to you. I think that's not required. That cannot be done, and we have held the people guilty as a consequence of this. Confidentiality. I think one of the most fundamental principles of ethics is that you have to maintain the confidentiality of your client. You can't keep on sharing what you have gathered during the course of your audit to the other people, boasting that I'm auditing this particular organization and I've got this information. And there have been cases, believe me, not only boasting, where people have gone around. I will say these may be aberrations, but this has happened. And that is why I'm talking about it. That people go and share the information. In one of the cases in South, the person has actually shared the information of the parties to whom the other person was exporting to the competitors of the company. But that cannot be done under any circumstances. You have to maintain the confidentiality of the client. If a person has been raided, you know that a person has been raided, and you may say that, yes, I have a right to tell somebody that he has been raided. No. In general, if you come to know it, you are not the auditor of the company, you may talk about it as a CA. But if you are the auditor and you have actually gone into the facts and you pick up something, you cannot share that information with anyone else unless it is required under law or it is with the consent of the client. I think there are a number of things that we can talk of. We all have been, when I talk of independence, I'm going back a little bit. I step back a little bit. When we talk of the independence, what we have been doing, my fee could be 10,000 rupees, but the client comes and gives me a gift on Diwali, say of 1 lakh of a rupee. I think the code of conduct is very clear. Please start evaluating whether it impairs your independence or not. You are auditing your brother's accounts. It impairs your independence or not. You're auditing your own wife's account. In one of the cases recently, the wife of the auditor was the MD of the company. And the person is the auditor. How can I do it? Or is it ethical to do it? Can I do it? I will not talk about it. But whether it is ethical to do it, whether it doesn't impair your independence, I think that's very important. Similarly, there are other things. If my son is working as you can say, in a company, and my independence is impaired, thinking that if I qualify the report of this particular organization, my son may got sacked. I think I have to start looking at it. What are the implications thereof, for that matter? And I will say at the end one thing, two things that I will like to say at the end. One thing is that most of the cases which have come before us in the disciplinary committee in the last 4 years, of course, I sat on the disciplinary committee for 7 years overall. For the last 4 years, I was on the disciplinary committee of the institute as a government nominee. And these years was a bad experience for me. Believe me, I started feeling that either we have just started ignoring so far as the competence part is concerned. SA 240, nobody is looking at. We all have started believing that SA 240 is redundant. I think asset 240 is very important. Asset 250, compliance with the laws and regulations is very, very important. And if I have to talk of the going concern, I have to talk of the external confirmations. How many of us are actually getting into the external confirmations? You get some of the balance sheets in which you keep on writing as certified and valued by the management when it comes to inventories. Is it the ethical behavior? Is it required by the auditing? Is it permitted by the auditing standards? I think these are all question marks on us, which we'll have to answer. If not today, probably tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. That's all I can say. And I think one of the things that I will like to say is that the fee levels. Sometimes your fee levels indicate your ethical levels. Now, one may say that my client does not pay this kind of a fee. You may be a 12 partner firm, you may be a 20 partner firm, and if you are still able to charge 5,000 or 10,000 rupees from a client, number one, there have been certain advisories from the institute. Now, our problem is that we don't get into the spirit of the advisory. We only want to comply. We go more by compliance rather than by the spirit. To me, what is more important is the spirit. And that also I say when it comes to Caro, very frankly, some of the questions which have been asked may have remained unanswered even through the guidance note from the institute. Well, believe me, I think we don't have to feel shy to answer those questions because we have to answer what is the spirit of the law, why these questions have been brought in. And we all know why these questions are there. We should not be getting in only into the compliance mode. The moment I get into the compliance mode, the problems start occurring, believe me. And I think similarly, the fee levels, I think no institute will be able to raise your fees. It's a matter of contract between the two parties, the auditor and the auditee, and it's for us to actually govern that particular level. If somebody says no, can a doctor be told what fee you should be charging? Will the medical council ever advise them? No, there are certain doctors who charge a very good fee, and there are certain doctors who charge no fee. Similarly, in the case of the advocates also, no institute will be able to do it. It is us. I think it is our. I have to charge my fee commensurate to my competence and my effort involved in a particular assignment. I think that's very important. And similarly, I think one of the most fundamental principles of ethics is I should be taking care of all the stakeholders. I'm not only indebted to my client because he pays me the fee for the audit. One fundamental difference between the profession of lawyers and ours is lawyer is paid to defend a particular client. We are unable to appreciate this difference. Whereas we are paid by the client to make sure that we are able to protect the interest of the various stakeholders, whether it is government or it is creditor or it is debtor or it is shareholder or it's staff. We lose sight of that. We lose sight of it. And I think there are a number of firms in which if I do the tax consultancy also and I do the audit also, tax consultancy overrides the interest of the audit. I start looking at everything from the tax practitioner point of view. I think audit is an audit. Audit is with regard to true and fair view. Audit is with regard to is an attest function, which is an assurance to somebody that you can rely upon these financial statements. And that is what the ethical conduct is. The day the financial statements are not to be relied upon by the users of the financial statements, I think we are crossing certain line and we are stepping onto a very dangerous zone. My humble request to you is, one very simple requirement of the code of ethics is, or rather the code which has been laid down is, that when you are going out of the firm, and the other person is getting into the new auditor is getting into the firm, the new auditor should communicate with you. Why? The new auditor should communicate with you to find out whether you have any professional reasons for me not to accept this particular appointment. But some of us tend to behave as if this client has been my property and I will not allow someone new to come in. I say, no, I object for this reason, that reason. No. I can only object on professional reasons. Either my fee has not been paid or I have been removed unceremoniously and illegally. If I'm a tax auditor and I have been removed, which the management can do it even with the compliance of the Companies Act. 1 year I have completed, the other year they appoint some other tax auditor. How can you stop it to happen? Simply by writing to the new auditor, don't accept it. The other auditor will definitely go ahead because he knows that he can go ahead with it. It is no profession. The moment I say that you don't accept it, without having any professional objection, without having any professional reason to tell him not to accept, I become unethical in my conduct. I can go on, friends, but I also know the constraint of time. And I also know that Mr. Sunil Bajaj is waiting. My very sincere gratitude and thanks to Mr. Sanjeev Singhal and the Vice Chairman of AASB, Mr. Vishal Doshi, for providing me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts. I think I can go on. I have so much of examples from the disciplinary committee that I can talk on this issue even for the full day. But then time is a constraint always. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your words of wisdom, and you have guided us in a very lucid manner and in a very explanative manner. So on behalf of AASB of ICI, I extend my heartiest thanks towards you for sparing your valuable time and joining this VCM, sir, and giving us and acceding to our request on a very shorter notice, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So moving towards the next technical session relating to this only, ethics in audit, we are having with us another guest speaker, CS Sunil Bajaj. May I request Sunil Bajaj to please enlighten all of us with your expert opinion, sir, on this ethics. Over to you, Sunil, sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And, a very good evening and my humble submission to the President, Vice President, sir, past President Amarjit ji, and Chairman Sanjeev Singhal ji, and all the 2,000 plus fellow brothers and sisters, professionals who are attending this. And I'm like really a pleasure hearing all of the esteemed speakers before me, and the way and you rightfully summarized it, the lucid manner and the practical manner, and with the examples that Amarjit ji conducted this, and he's right. You are right, sir, when you say that you can go on and speak on this, because this is a topic very close to all our hearts, and by virtue of our roles, whether in the disciplinary committee, whether in the ethical standard board, we come across so many examples of instances that we really don't need a slide deck, we really don't need a guidance. It comes all from the mind, from the heart, and we can correlate to it. So thanks a lot for setting the tone, sir. Thank you for setting the tone.
Thanks a lot. God bless you. I may be just exiting at this particular moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So I can only begin with saying
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
The key words the President, sir, Dr. Mitra, when he said integrity, independence, and excellence, that's all, it's summarized very well, that we all practicing chartered accountants, whether we are in the industry, wherever we are working, after we have attained this professional qualification, which stays with us for life, means nobody can take away this pride of being called a chartered accountant. And so many students who are aspiring to become a qualified chartered accountant, I meet them, many in my family. It's a matter of pride, and once you've attained it, that reputation is something that we only need to take it forward, take it ahead. The legacy that we have inherited from our members who have been there before us, we need to uphold it. We need to take that reputation up and then pass on the baton to the generations that come after us. So being 25 years in this profession, I can speak, and share some experience. So thanks to AASB, Sanjeev Singhal ji and all others, for Anil ji and all, for giving this opportunity to connect today. Being mindful of the time, I'll keep it to the watch. And I would just like to share my screen, Anil ji or someone, if you can tell me once it's visible. I'm just attempting to share my screen over here. Anil ji or anybody, can you guide me if the alphabet screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Visible. So to all, I've done this before, but if you've missed it, I'm just asking, like, if I'm here, the facilitator, if I'm asking you to see this and read out and make out what this stands for, I'm sure some people can guess. And I've put the alphabet over there, so but when I depict it with these pictures, some of them could be a little difficult, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. J is a jellyfish. Now, jellyfish is a little difficult for me. And likewise, there are a couple of others which I find a little difficult. So I would go to the old means, and instead of confusing you with this, and I don't know why we are seeing this going back to the nursery or class 1 or 2, wherever we learned this, I will go to the more easier mechanism of telling all of us what we learned long back, and probably we teach our children, and we have learned it again, and so this is what it is. It's as simple, as straightforward, and we can't get it wrong. This is what you're seeing, so we can't get it wrong. It has to be right. Everybody attending away, I'm sure, knows it backwards. But I don't have the liberty to ask you when I'm meeting you face to face, and then I ask people to go unmute and tell me if there's something amiss, and that opportunity I don't have, I guess. So
F&D, sir. F&D.
F&E.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So if others didn't notice, over here, A, B, C, D, F, E, and I'm saying, and you've corrected me right, that E comes before F. It's as basic as that. In the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we are told the E is always before F. It's a rule that can't be broken. It's something that's a global language. It's something that's across the globe. Anywhere you go and talk about alphabets and people will start narrating, they'll always say A, B, C, D, E, F. They will not say F, E. Then how is it that we can't get it right? Or how is it that we will want to struggle in not getting it right? I'm not saying we don't get it right. So that's where I say that always our value system, as Amarjit ji said, our value system which drives the science of ethics, that ethics must come before our fees. And once we get that right, believe you me, our fees will follow. Our fees will follow. The President, sir, said survive. He said survive with respect. I would say you must survive and you must also thrive. And for that, we must get this right, that ethics must always come before the fees. And with that, I would say, let's go ahead. Amarjit ji covered it to some extent when he said ethics is a science of morals and human conduct, what we have grown up. I remember when I grew up as a child, and if I found a 5 rupee note fallen on the ground, I went down to play cricket. And I came back home and I said, look, mommy, I found a 5 rupee note lying on the ground. I was very clearly, and I've repeated this, I've said this, shared this with many people. I was told, keep it aside. Next time you visit the temple, you will put it there, or you will give it to somebody needy. You will not use it for yourself. You found the money. It doesn't belong to you. You have to give it away. You can't use it for your personal gain. Now, that's something, the values that you learn or you imbibe in your family. Then you go to the school, from your teachers, from your peers, from your fellow students, the environment that you're growing in, the society that you're living in. We are always absorbing values. And Amarjit ji, sir, summed it up very well. So these are all values, and those values, when we grow up, everybody will come from a different value system. But when we become professionals, when we qualified as chartered accountants, when we are becoming part of this institute, Institute of Chartered Accountants, and on a global scale, we are qualified chartered accountants, we all need to come to a common set. So we all would have grown up with our value systems, and they will be more or less aligned. But to come to a common set, that's where we are talking about these ethics. We are talking about a code of conduct. The code is what defines what is basic minimum expected from all of us once we are members of this profession, and we need to uphold the integrity, objectivity, and excellence as has been said. So we need to be free from our interests which are incompatible with either objectivity, integrity, or impartiality, which is truly expected by all stakeholders, not only the client, as was shared a while back. Not the client is not the only stakeholder. The client may be appointing us, the client may be the ones we engage with for getting our fees and all, but in our mind, we need to get it right that our work is for stakeholders much beyond, for public at large, for regulators, for shareholders, anybody and everybody who's relying on those financial statements or our reports is a stakeholder. They may not see us, they may not meet with us, we may not meet with them, but they are relying on our work, our output, our signature, which the Prime Minister of India said that the signature that we put has so much of value that we need to guard it and guard the respect that it has earned over the years. It's a state of mind, extends beyond the legal requirements. You can't murder anyone, as Amarjit was saying, you can't kill anyone. All this is there in the legal provisions. But when we talk about ethics, when we talk about professionalism, when we talk about objectivity, integrity, excellence, it's a higher standard. We always say an informed third party should not perceive you to be not independent. So independence is a state of mind, not only a state of law. So we have to be independent, and we also need to be perceived as being independent. So appear to be independent. So that's the highest standard that we all as professionals need to imbibe with. And that's where we are having this 50th session, and this topic was given. I also requested to be excused, but when I was told that this is the 50th session and quite important, and all the dignitaries, all the senior members, president, vice president, past presidents who are attending, I also felt encouraged to come and participate and have this discussion with all of us, because this topic is very close to my heart. The litmus test is the pride of service. I take it, means I can say it to all of you. We are all here in the same profession. I take a pride in this, that I'm a chartered accountant, and the work that we do contributes to the society. So that pride of service is the preference that we need to have in our mind, in our day-to-day act, rather than the personal gain that can come with it. So personal gain, which is up to the fees, legitimate fees, legitimate knowledge, legitimate learning, that's amazing. Means in the last 25 years, I would say, as somebody said that somebody shared the list of the buyers or sellers or providers. No, I've gone to the interiors of so many factories, so many clients, manufacturing clients, service industry clients. They open the doors to you, they open their books to you. It's with a trust. It's with the trust of that confidentiality. It's with the trust that you will do the right thing in advising them, whether the accounting is correct, whether any disclosures are needed, whether there are some improvement opportunities that you discover because you found some errors, whether the wastages which are coming out of the BOM and the wastages that the financial numbers are throwing up, whether they are reconciling. So our service is not just that one standard page of the the audit report that we issue. It may be very bland and very standard cut, copy, paste report, but that standard has been drafted keeping in mind certain principles and assurances that we give that it's true and fair. And when we say that and when we sign that, a lot is being relied upon. But before we issue that, as I was saying, coming back, that the openness and the trust with which the client shares their whole entire processes, manufacturing processes, details, suppliers, debtors, pricing, costing, that's all very confidential information. A restructuring plan, projections. Now, that could be confidential, price-sensitive information. Our law of the land, there's prevention of insider trading, SEBI laws are there, global laws are there. Now, you and I can actually go behind bars if we are benefiting and trading in those shares by virtue of having privileged, price-sensitive, confidential information. So please, personal gain is something that we need to really stay clear of. And if we get this basics right, not auditing your own work, not having a personal interest, not advocating for your client, audit client. So these are the basic tenets, self-review threat, advocacy threat. These are the basic tenets. If we get that right, every other query that comes to us, 99% we'll know the answer upfront. We will know the answer upfront. Our heart, our mind will tell us whether the answer is right or wrong, whether we should do it or we don't do it. It's later. I always believe it's later. The first voice, inner voice that tells us is the right answer. And then we try to reason with it, to reconcile and justify non-audit fees, threat of losing the client, dependence, limits on fee size. All these things that I'm going to quickly cover in the next half an hour, they are all emanating out of threats to our objectivity, any threats to our impartiality, any threats to our integrity. So those threats may exist. Those lucrative opportunities, I may call it, those distractions would be there in our day-to-day life. If we keep the pride intact, if we believe that we want to keep on the pride and our service as our preference, I'm telling you, everything that I'm going to cover later will sound what I will say very rational, very objective, and we don't need to really open the books and get it right. So I'll go quickly forward. I've covered this. These are the few highlights, prohibition on other occupations while you're a practicing accountant, prohibition on solicitation of work, guidance around advertisement and canvassing, auditing, having a financial interest in your auditing company, the number of audits that you can do, the fees that you can earn on a non-audit assignment. You can't be writing the books of accounts which you're going to be auditing, and you shouldn't be doing it for a close relative as a brother, sister, father's mother, as Amarjit ji was covering. Definitely a demarcation needs to exist between external and internal auditors, and the list goes on. There's no possible way that me or anybody else can summarize in this session or any other session or even a day-long session as to what all is the expectation, because as I said, it's a mix of written guidance as well as the application of mind and application of ethics that we need to do, because the number of varied scenarios that we can be facing is going to be endless. But if we get the basics right, as the president, vice president, past president G have said, if we get those fundamentals right, believe you me, we will know the answer, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. That's my belief, and I would move ahead. There are the few words that come to my mind when I talk about ethics. What all is expected. We need to uphold quality. We need to be mindful of the public interest. We need to be, intellectually very professional. Our belief that we can do the right thing. Our behavior, our conduct, our appearance, not only in the dress sense, but our appearance in terms of what we are doing. All these things, and I can go on, will make a impact on whether we are perceived and whether we are actually ethical, independent. So working with regulators, I'm sure we all are familiar. We are the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. That forum, we are there. There's a public company oversight board, accountants oversight board, which is there, PCOB. There's an income tax department, NAFRA, SEBI, SEC, and CONSOB in Italy. Many other regulators, across the world. I'm sure with international clients, local clients, we are working with many regulators. We need to see that they have an eye on us. They expect a certain behavior from us. They expect certain professionalism from us. Our code of conduct, our ethical behavior, our guidances are all meant to uphold the respect of the profession and that we are seen in the right way. We need to comply with all the laws and regulations. We need to uphold the professional conduct that we have. Watching a cricket match in the box seat with your clients, is it the right thing? I leave it to you discuss. Whether taking and receiving gifts, a token in a marriage, very token, nominal, cultural thing, maybe fine, but to stay clear, if you see the UK Bribery Act, even a pen is seen as a bribe. So in India, we may say Diwali, we may say marriage and all, but if you go by regulations across the globe, many regulations will say no, nothing, not even a calendar, not even a diary. Why can't the person buy on his or herself? So that's where the gifts are. So just stay clear. I would say any form of bribe, any kind of facilitation payment, any kind of unethical financial exchange or a non-financial exchange, not worth it. I think I heard someone say, "Wo chalta hai attitude." It's not anymore. No more. I would say to all the people present on this call that chalta hai attitude needs to go out. We need to do the right thing. We need to believe what we are doing right, and we need to demonstrate that we are doing the right thing. Confidentiality. When we talk about intellectual capital, keeping our professional knowledge up to date, sharing best practices, developing the firms that we are working in. I'm also a partner in my firm. All of you would be taking care of matters. The junior team members who are coming up in the profession, sharing best practices with them, sharing the internal external knowledge that we have gained, respecting the copyright of all the information that is shared with us in trust. All that leads to managing our intellectual capital and the access that we have. It could be pertaining to our clients, it could be pertaining to our people, it could be any other third parties. We are given in today's, I was told the Vice President, sir, is totally on the technology, and I've had the privilege of working with him in the Ethical Standard Board for last many years, interacting with him. So when it comes to easy, voluminous access to data, together with that comes the utmost responsibility to have the security systems around it to secure our systems in a manner that we avoid a breach, we avoid a data leakage. In today's electronic age, as much as we go ahead, the people who are applying wrong means to steal that data or to obtain that data, they are always trying to break our security protocol. So I would say you need to be mindful that when you are privy to the client data that you have, you need to secure your databases, your IT assets in a manner that the confidentiality is upheld. Business is all about trust, and trust is built on integrity. That's why the choices that you make, the decisions that you take would result in whether we not only survive, but we also thrive, and we are trusted. We are seen as trusted advisors. The repeat business comes to us, referred business comes to us. We will not need to go and seek. It will come to us. Believe you me, when we say that we should avoid advertisements, we should avoid solicitation. Why? When many years back, the codes were written, or the CA Act was written, or when the professional guidance was being written, why was it said that you can't advertise, you can't solicit? It was because, I personally believe it was because we are expected to be professionally as competent and qualified, that people should perceive us as people whom they should come to for our service. So our business is all about trust, and if the trust is there, the repeat business and the referred business will keep coming to us, and I've seen it in the last 25 years that I have been in this business. So when in doubt, always consult. Disciplinary committee members are there, council members are there, elected members from your local bodies are there, regulators are there, ESB is there. The list is endless. Your peers, your senior peers are there, your friends are there who may have experiences. So I would always say, when you are in doubt, kindly consult and don't just go about in a gray area. It has to be very clear as to what we need to do. Now, I know we are all attending it virtually, and when we were having these sessions in presence, I think when we were physically present, it was the left side scenario. I don't know whether this in Gurgaon, at least the weather is very nice. It's pleasant. It's cloudy. So whether some people who are attending, they are on the right side of the screen or the left side of the screen or actually interacting, I really can't say. But I just hope that it's neither of the two scenarios. And if talking about fees will wake you up, if talking about this picture of currency will wake you up, that's the intent that I have you here, that please definitely charge your just amount. Nobody is expecting you to to obtain work at very dismal amounts or a lower fees, please explain to the clients what your efforts are, and accordingly secure your fees. So you must charge a just amount. That's important, and that will help you keep delivering services in an ethical manner. If you are under pressure of fees, if you're not getting paid enough, obviously there would be other threats to your profitability, your existence, your paying your team, and that is not a good scene to be in. But I will quickly move on. And as the Vice President sir said, we have worked together in the Ethical Standard Board. The Code of Ethics, in my presence, in my association, the Code of Ethics was, we had an earlier Code of Ethics which was last revised in the year 2009. So recently in 2019 we came up with the revised Code of Ethics, and I've been privy with many chairmen of the ethical standard boards in the last 4 or 5 terms. I've had the privilege of being in the ethical standard boards. I continue to be there, and this 12th edition of the Code of Ethics that has come, if I quickly just take you through some very key points in the next 15 minutes, it's the first time that the Code of Ethics has been segregating into different volumes. There are 3 volumes that are there, 1, 2, 3, which have got different sets of applicability. I will not go in detail. It came back in 2019, but many parts are still being implemented, which we thought that members would need more time to get familiarized with. I'll cover them: NOCLER, fee limits, taxation services. There are many of those things which the council and the other senior fraternity members, they felt the fellow professionals would need more time. They're practically given more time. Certain provisions are still going to be implemented in this year. But since 2019, many awareness programs have been conducted by the Institute, by the various bodies, by various subgroups. I've had the privilege of interacting with many members across various cities. I've been invited where I've talked about these changes. So very quickly, if I go through them, in the revised 2019 code, there's a provision around NOCLER. Non-compliance of laws and regulations need to be reported. There are restrictions on taxation service to audit clients. As I said earlier, there were no restrictions. But going on with the alignment with the ISBA Code of Conduct, Code of Ethics, Code of Conduct that is there globally, our institute has also aligned the India Code of Conduct, the Code of Ethics, with the global standards. So we have certain restrictions on taxation services. I will quickly cover them. Prohibition on management responsibilities towards the audit client. Safeguard on fees from a single client. It should. Amarjit ji sir spoke a lot about the fees aspect, so I will go a little fast on that. And definitely, there's a duty of the accountant in case of a breach of independence standard. This also I will cover in the slides ahead. Earlier, it was only independence for assurance engagements. Now we have independence requirements for audit and review engagements and other assurance engagements. There's a differentiation that has been created. Independence section has been renamed as International Independence Standards. The use of the word should, shall has been replaced with should. Now, somebody may say it's a syntax, it's English. No, it's been thought through. A lot of thought and effort has gone globally. Globally, a lot of thought has gone into it as to where it is binding is going to be seen as a should. Shall may be seen as optional, but when it's a should, it's very clearly an indication that this should be done by you and me. Okay. Structure, I will skip. Increased clarity of responsibility for compliance, whether what the firms need to do, what the individuals within the firms need to do. A lot of clarity has been there. And that's why there are 3 volumes that are there in the revised code. A personal accountant, a PA is the short form, personal accountant that is referred to as, and the definition is any individual who's a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants is a professional accountant. Okay. Part A, Part B, Part C. I have part Volume 1, 2. I'll skip with that. A member of the institute, whether in practice or not, shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he or she doesn't abide by the code that we have come out with, because that code falls into the definition of the guidelines issued by the council. So it's kind of binding on all of us who are attending here, and we all need to uphold it. And that's why a little bit of understanding of this will help us a lot. Any knockler, the knockler word, we have had a lot of debates in ESB around what it means, what it should mean, what clarification should be issued to the members. So it says any act of omission or commission committed by a client or employer contrary to the prevailing laws and regulations. So if by virtue of when we are doing the audit, if we become familiar, now that's very important. We are not going out and searching for anything specifically. This knockler is not mandating that you increase your work steps. That's a misconception that I need to clarify. It's only saying that if you become aware of any non-compliances with laws and regulations, then you need to disclose it appropriately. To begin with, it's applicable to listed entities. To begin with, it's only on audit assignments. To begin with, in case of practicing accountants in service, applicable to employees of listed entities. I personally believe after a couple of years, 1 or 2 years, once it's stabilized and people become comfortable with this knockler, it would be then applied on other entities as well. That's my personal view. Laws and regulations that have a nexus to the professional accountants, professional training and expertise. They are around determination of material amounts, disclosure in financial statements. They're around that. When many people think that we need to find out local state laws, local pollution laws, local any of those, no. My understanding is it's things that while you're executing your audits, if in relation to that you become aware of any non-compliances and deviations, that's what is required to be disclosed. Okay. Matters definitely not in scope of knockers, which are matters which are highly inconsequential. Personal misconduct related matters, no, we are not required to disclose it under knockler. Non-compliance other than by the client or the employer or those charged with governance management, no, we don't need to go that way. And as I clarified, is required to address knockler only when and if he or she encounters the same in the course of providing the audit services, not otherwise. That was a big debate we had recently in the ESB, whether the person needs to be making efforts, extra efforts to find out more. No, that's not the idea that we believe. Any breaches, if we discover any breaches, unintentional breaches that have happened at our end, there's a mechanism of reporting. There's a mechanism, guidance given in the new code of ethics in the section 400.80 and 400.89 up to 400.89, which says how you can take care of ending that breach, how you need to suspend the work till that breach is addressed, eliminate the interest that created the breach, and then either continue, or if the breach is such material or the effect is irreversible, then you to resign or stay clear of that client because you are no longer perceived to be independent. And when such a things happen, communications with those charged with governance, with the audit committees, with management is highly important with the shareholders. Why? Because it's a joint decision. Whether the audit firm believes that they are now still independent or the matter was not material, they need to discuss it with those charged with governance, and a joint concurrence need to be obtained. That's what the case is, and it should not be a one-sided decision. A key audit partner is a new term that has come in. It is mentioned as the engagement partner. Everybody understand that, but the individual responsible for engagement quality control review. We have a dual partner review. I'm sure many of you would be having it. That person also is seen as a key audit partner, or any partner who's taking the decisions, taking the judgments on significant matters or disclosures. That person is also a key audit partner. So depending on the circumstances, the role of the individual on the audit, other audit partners who are associated with the auditing engagement would get qualified as being termed as key audit partner. Why that term is important, I'll quickly cover it when we go ahead. There were no firm rotation requirements in the past. It has come in the Companies Act. When the Companies Act was 1956 was revised in 2013, the firm rotation requirements came in. The partner rotation is coexisting with the firm rotation, and there are different set of rules which I'm sure everybody on this call is aware of. The changes that came in was the 7-year rule remained the 7-year, but there's a 2-year cooling off requirement that has come, that after an engagement partner has been on the job for 5 years, there has to be a 2-year cooling off period. There has to be a 3-year cooling off period. There's a 5-year cooling off period for the engagement partner. There's a 3-year cooling off period for the engagement quality control reviewer. There's a 2-year cooling off period for all other key audit partners. That's why we touched upon the key audit partners definition, because people who are indirectly associated in that audit, if they fall under the definition of key audit partner, then they need to have a after the period allowed, they need to have a cooling off period. They need to have a cooling off period. Earlier, for everyone, it was 2-year cooling off period back in 2009 version. But in 2019 version, definitely given the role that they have, there's a different set of cooling off years that are there. All again to address the familiarity threat. All again to uphold the impartiality, to uphold the integrity, to hold the excellence of service that we talked about. I'm sure you all understand that this partner rotation rules are all to address the threat of familiarity, the threat of dependence. The independent pair of eyes coming in will always bring a fresh flavor. And definitely we need a couple of years of stability to add value to the job, but then a change is necessary so that a new person looks at it from a new pair of eyes. Partner rotation, we have covered this. Restriction or activities during cooling off period, we all understand. I don't think we need to read anything. You don't need to read anything on the screen. Definitely you can't be engaged in client relationships. You can't be taking judgment calls. You can't be interacting with the teams and contributing to the audit execution. If a cooling off is there, it means hands off. If you're in a cooling off period, you need to stay clear, completely clear of that client and that engagement, and have no interaction whatsoever with the engagement team and the client teams on that client. Management responsibility is very, very important topic. Obviously, it's understood that the firm should not assume a management responsibility. However, globally, this is coming from the global ISBA standards, providing advice and recommendations to assist the management of an audit client in discharging their responsibilities is not assuming a management responsibility. Providing administrative services to an audit client does not usually create a threat. Examples would be word processing services, preparing administrative or statutory forms for client approval, submitting such forms as instructed by the client, monitoring statutory filing dates and advising an audit client of those dates are very routine administrative matters, and they are not the decision-making roles, and thus they are not to be seen as a management responsibility, something which is clearly spelled out in our Code of Ethics, Volume 1. Non-assurance services, very, very key topic across the globe. What non-assurance services you can render, what you can't render. Many prohibitions on, there's a prohibition on recruitment services in the 2019 code. We can't be offering recruitment services to our audit clients. Enhanced general description of recruitment services. Clear guidance on types of recruitment services which are prohibited. New provisions to help avoid assuming management responsibilities when providing such services. All these are there, which whether you're taking a reference check of a prospective candidate, whether you can do, cannot do, all this has been explained in detail in the 2019 Code of Ethics that we have. Now, taxation, earlier in the 2019 code, there was never a restriction or no mention of any guidance on the taxation services. But when you come to the Volume 1 of Code of Ethics, you will see that generally it says that services to an audit client might create a self-review or an advocacy threat. Now, it may alarm you, but I'm taking you to the next slide and saying tax return preparation, business as usual. We don't see it as a threat. We discussed it in the ESB as well. Tax calculations for the purpose of preparing accounting entries is something that is perceived as creating a self-review threat. We shouldn't be doing that. Any tax planning or a tax advisory services is but obvious would end up creating a self-review or an advocacy threat. And that's why we need to have appropriate segregation in the teams or the firms, and the same firm should not be doing that kind of a work. Tax services involving valuations might perform only where the result of the valuation will not have a material impact on the financial statements. Assistance in resolving tax disputes, definitely it can, advocacy threat. You are going and pleading a case, it can create a perceived advocacy threat. So if that's not the case, if it's amounts involved are highly immaterial, you're not acting as an advocate, or where across which authority the matter is being presented, all that goes in determining whether it will be seen as assistance in resolution of tax disputes or not, and then the decision can be taken whether we can offer that service to our audit clients or we can't. Earlier in the 2019 code, there were terms like whether the threats to independence are clearly insignificant or whether they are trivial or inconsequential. Now the 2019 code talks about if a threat has been identified, whether it's possible to reduce it to an acceptable level. If it can be eliminated, great. If it cannot be eliminated, then is it possible to reduce it to an acceptable level. Whether a reasonable, informed third party, knowing all the facts, would agree with you and me that the acceptable level has been reached is the high litmus test that we need to apply. So it's a very, very difficult but a detailed, elaborated mechanism given in the new code. Whether we are able to eliminate the circumstances which are creating the threat, whether we have successfully applied all safeguards, and if we have failed in both, then whether we have declined and ended our service is something that we need to address it by. We need to step back. We need to stop the work. We need to start again only once everything has been addressed appropriately. Public interest entity, I'm sure I don't need to run that definition. A listed entity for sure, defined by many regulations. If you're given a particular revenue size, borrowing size, regulated industry, there are all various definitions existing, and I'm sure we are all familiar by now with a public interest entity definition. Documentation, again, a subject very close to my heart, and I deliver, I'm called upon to deliver by the peer review board on audit documentation. I say whatever is not documented is not done. So the facts that, if there's been a deviation, if there's been a threat to independence, what are all the facts? What are the accounting principles or professional standards we have involved? Whether we have communicated with the parties who matter, with whom the governance is there, we have discussed it with them. What course of action was considered? How the accountant attempted to address the matter? All this should be documented. On matters on NOCLER also, they all should be documented. On tax services, whether what judgment we applied, whether they are permissible or not, it should be documented. Representation or legal matters, again, it should be documented as to what judgment was applied, what calls were taken, why and how it was perceived that our independence would not be threatened. Fee relative size, again, this is still a draft provision. The council, I believe, is still discussing it. What percentages, what revenue size, on what firms, of what size, what provision should be there. So this is still a work in progress. The fee dependence is, in principle, I can discuss that if a large fee dependence is there, as Amarjit ji sir also said, if the large dependence is there on any client, then definitely there could be a threat to your independence. So once more clarity comes out, I'm sure the institute and the board would share that with you. That's where that's what I came prepared with. But any questions, any deliberations, I'm more than happy to share, because as everybody said, ethics is quite important. Is quite important in delivery of our service, and if we get it right, we definitely would not only survive but thrive. We will grow, we will make profits, and success will be after us. So with that, to you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful deliberation, sir. It was nice to have you here, sir, and you have explained the how ethics is required, and it was again a very, very, very simple and very good manner, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I have certain questions, sir. If you allow me, may I? Ji, sir. So first question is, what is the definition of relative for the conflict of interest? Is this mentioned in Code of Ethics, or we have to go by the Companies Act 2013? Or also, if the Companies Act definition is to be taken, then how it is practicable to declaration from all the relatives that no breach has occurred during the period?
A very good question. I am also struggling, and I will be honest, this is a forum, but I will say that when the Companies Act came out with and gave a wide definition of relative that has been given, it's quite wide, and it's a practical challenge to be sure. So I would say, look, again, as all the learned speakers before me said, it's ethics and a state of independence is something, is professional, is judgmental, is something that we need to uphold. So I begin with that to the best of my knowledge. If I have knowledge that anybody is having those financial interests in the clients that I'm auditing, I would make efforts to get them out of it. I would share that details with those charged with governance. I would restrict myself if I'm aware. I don't think the Companies Act has prescribed. I don't think that's a process to be followed, that you need to write and obtain confirmations from every relative that has been named over there, because that list is quite huge and wide. In the Code of Ethics, again, yes, definition exists. There are terms like immediate family members. There are terms like close family members. There are your spouse, people who are financially dependent on you, people who are financially independent on you. So there are different sets globally. Globally, there are different sets of expectations that are there from relatives who are close family members or immediate family members. So yes, the definition is slightly different, but the person who's asked this question is a valid question. That's a very onerous and a very difficult provision to comply with. Hopefully, many other seniors are attending this session. Some would have submitted to the MCA, to the government, and I'm sure the council would also be taking it up. That there needs to be maybe a rethink on how to go about complying with this requirement, because once it's a law, we are all as professionals obligated to respect it, to comply with. So I'm fully with this person that it is a difficult provision to comply with.
Yes. Sir, having ethics at audit level without minding the same by all the stakeholders of the society would have zero impact on reporting.
Could you repeat this, please? I didn't understand it.
Sir, having ethics at audit level without minding these same by all the stakeholders of the society, would it have been the zero impact on reporting?
Very honestly, I don't think I've understood this question. I'll be very honest. I've not understood this question.
So I will ask the member to explain the question.
Sir. Yeah, if they can come back with a
the
question, I will take it up. I will
further explain the question.
I will take it up after a couple of other questions.
Yes, sir. So why wife could not undertake non-audit services such as filing of form 15 CB, that is the certification work, in a public sector undertaking where husband is employed. So please also tell how such small services can be influenced by any opinions.
So I would say, again, it's a matter of integrity. It's a matter of personal interest. But if the person, if the spouse or the relative is not in a position to influence the financial reporting, then I believe there should not be a problem. So in the example this question has given is the husband is working in that organization. Now, if that husband is working at a director level, as a financial controller level, or at a level where that person is responsible for that document or the outcome, and that person calls the shots in finalization of that documentation, then I agree there is a self-review thread. There is a thread because the immediately close family member is issuing a certificate. But if that person's work is getting reviewed by some other people, that person is not the final authority. As we call the term, we call it globally, the term is Financial Reporting Oversight Role, FROR. So if that person, husband, spouse, is not in an FROR role, then I don't see a issue in this being taken up.
Yes, thank you, sir. Sir, if a client does not release payment for services rendered as a professional, despite several reminders and several calls, what ethical opinions does the practitioner have to get his payment? Should he write it off the dues failing to collect?
I would never say that. As I always said, writing off will only again lead to a dependency threat, and in the interest, you may end up not being independent. So there are provisions which say you will not issue the next year's audit report, or rather, if you issue the next year's audit report, if your earlier year's fees is not paid, then there are threats to independence. It doesn't say that you will stop the work, but that needs to be discussed with those charged with governance. It needs to be discussed with the board of directors and the management. And if there's a change of auditor scenario, there is a communication mechanism. We can write to, we should write to the incoming auditors or incoming consultants and make it clear that our fees has not been paid, because then the other professional needs to know what they are signing up for. If they are coming up with a client, know your client, KYC and everything, they should also know if the client is in the habit of not paying the undisputed fees. If it's a disputed fees, then the mechanism or the forum is different. If it's an undisputed fees, then the mechanism is different. Undisputed fees should not be held back and you give another year's opinion. So I would say there are, institute is a forum, the companies have their own regulators, MCA is a forum, it can be taken up with the help of the regulatory bodies, with the members body, but the fees need to be collected. I am the last person who would agree to a write-off of fees. Never.
Yes. Right. Sir, if a person is working as a concurrent auditor, and can he get the loan from the same branch where he has assigned a task of concurrent auditor?
I would say no, and read together with the Companies Act provision where I believe the amount is 5 lakhs. So earlier, in the earlier times, it was the amount was 10,000. But I believe that now the borrowings limit is 5 lakhs. So both read together, the best is to take it from another bank. Why only you want to take it from the same branch or the same bank where you're a concurrent auditor? I can't understand. So I would say no. I would say the answer is no. You should not avail a loan from the entity which you are auditing.
Yes, sir. Yes. Fine, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Now we come to end. We have gained a lot for your deliberation, sir. Once again, on behalf of AASB of ICI, I extend my heartiest thanks towards you for sparing your valuable time. Again, very, very shorter notice for exceeding. Always you are available.
The occasion calls for it. You shared with me. It's a 50th seminar.
50th program, sir.
Pleasure is mine, and the attendance is what 2,000 plus. You told me.
So now it is 3,240, sir. More than 3,200.
Amazing. 3,200 people taking out time to attend this interaction. I am obliged. It's my privilege.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I will take your leave.